Okay, so I am going through my pictures and videos because I gotta go through my writing process and recording my story in actuality, so it can't be twisted by other people who try to make up bullshit. Alright, so first of all, these pictures here, everything that is in Google Photos, so my backup is turned off. It should not be in Google Photos. I deleted all of my photos off of Google, so they went ahead and made a second backup for themselves and have added things that they shouldn't have. One. But let me go through the story here. Back October 2018, this is Comic-Con. I could go back even further because I do have in my apartment downstairs a whole written plan of an autobiography. And no one else should write that for me. I mean, I did create some things that possibly help in the process. However, even those are unaware of the full process, and there hasn't been any actual resources or people to help in the venture. When I do actually write to people for help, where are they? Where are they? I'm not alone. Anyway. Yeah. And now, can't even reach them. And they shouldn't even reach me. Especially if they are incorrect in their assumptions. So, anyway, Comic-Con 2018. 2018 is the year, at the beginning of 2018, I just finished working at, I stopped working at New York Medical College back in 2017. I worked in the office of Dr. Halperin and also the president of Toro College at the time. Their chief of staff was Vilma. And while I was working there, I was working as the assistant. They put me in many different tasks, including going over their documentation and also making sure that I went through their archives, got rid of some things. If they needed any medical research, I would go to their library and pick up some of the books. I would also pick up some of their food. But these little things are not necessarily things I need to say on camera because guess what? Artificials are trying to steal what I was doing and take it for their own, and then make it so I have and get nothing. So I'm gonna have to turn off this video, but I am going to write. And unless somebody actually comes to me and asks me face to face, you know, because my actual face should not be copied by anybody else, especially not anybody from a tyrannical regime. You know, because if they are from a tyrannical regime, then and they're trying to copy somebody's face and making a clone or whatever, then my suggestion is to actually have a process. There is a process in which you can take a artificial and sift out whether it is aware of certain events and certain emotional capacity within those events, in connection. So that is the separation, because an artificial can take a look at pictures and try to deduce what had happened. However, it cannot deduce the actual feelings of the person behind the picture that was taking the picture. So, back in Comic-Con 2018, yeah, that's just a picture. That's just, where Google has decided to start my photos. Let's see. Yeah, 2018 was an interesting year. 2018 was the year that January, I worked at a real estate company for temp, an agency. And then I was called for an interview at Mount Sinai Hospital. I did a phone interview with a recruiter back in January 2018. I didn't think much of it, but she said that she's going to pass my resume down to the principal investigators there. The PI, they're called PIs, or they were doctors, working for CRISPR, and CRISPR is a genetics company presiding in Sweden, and with affiliates all over the globe. So I interviewed for that, and I didn't get a reply. I worked at multiple temp jobs. I worked at real estate for about a couple of weeks at one place, and then another couple of weeks I worked in Connecticut in another real estate agency. Five Corners Real Living is what it was called. It was in Greenwich. While I held that job on weekends, and then while working there, I started working for another temp agency at a law firm, and that law firm handled mostly things related to people's estates. It was an estate attorney run by a husband and wife duo, and their team. I was filling in for a woman that was taking a break because she has had surgery, and working at the real estate place on the weekends. It was very hectic for me, because at the same time, I was living with my ex, Brian Ribeiro, who lived in Mount Vernon. We lived in Mount Vernon, and I was also trying to pursue school. So I was doing a lot, and I ended up getting pretty sick. I had a 2-week-long migraine that kept me out of work, but thankfully the lawyers that I work with were very understanding and allowed me to continue working with them. And I did have to quit the other job. Also at that time, I got into a bad car accident. It was a 3-car accident. It was on the road heading to Connecticut, and that was with my old car. I called her Philippa, my old car. It was my first official car that I purchased, myself. But it was just a basic vehicle. I think it was a 2004. At any rate, the accident happened in which it was a white Land Rover a woman in a Land Rover. She stopped abruptly on the parkway. There was a lot of traffic going to Greenwich, and she stopped abruptly. Apparently, she said she saw a squirrel in the road or something. There was traffic. I was going about 40 miles per hour. I was slowing down anyway. However, because I was in an older car, I guess I hadn't had my brakes done in a while. I was young. I didn't have much money back then. Back in 2018 or so, I'm being paid probably between $15 and $18. And let's see, what else? So during the accident, like, I'm the third car in, because there was another car in front of me. I think it was a Honda, and the woman in the Land Rover stopped abruptly, and then the Honda then hit her, and then I'm trying to stop. My car kept going in skid, as because it was all a shock to us, and it just kept going, even though I'm like on the brakes. It's only like 40 miles per hour, but you still have to be careful. And they always, my grandfather, he taught me how to drive. They say, look 6 cars ahead. I was, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting to not be able to stop at 40 miles per hour. But I guess when your brakes aren't that good, and perhaps there was a little bit of a slope, and just kept going, kept rolling. And I happened to hit the car, the other car in front of me. My car was banged up the most, because the other cars, were newer, were able to stop more abruptly, stop, at a better rate. So my car was completely totaled in the front, and I was in a lot of pain. I did not have a airbag deploy, and I ended up hitting my shins and my forearms into the steering wheel, as well as my head on the steering wheel. I was very dazed, but the woman in front, a Latina, she came out of her car and she actually checked on me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. That lady just stopped abruptly. Are you okay?" She actually checked on me, and I was like, I couldn't even respond. I was like, I'm not sure. And then the police came. It was an Asian male, and he actually cited me multiple tickets, and blamed me for the collision, despite it not really being my fault. But I wasn't able to actually communicate with him fully because I was actually injured at the time. And honestly, what the proper procedure should have been was that he checked for injuries, but instead he cited a bunch of tickets, and they called the tow truck, and I was driven home. I passed out in the tow truck, but luckily they did bring me back to the place I was residing, 136 Rich Avenue, Mount Vernon. I was residing there at the time, again with my ex-boyfriend, and yeah, like I got out of the tow truck, and limped my way into the house. We lived on the 3rd floor at the time, so it was very difficult. But I kept going anyway. Let's see, what else? And then after, like, I still didn't really have too much help. My ex did not have a car at the time. He's in between jobs. He worked as a video editor and filmmaker. And he would also employ me as his makeup artist, and force me to help him with his projects. Despite everything, I helped him with everything that he was doing, even though he would constantly verbally assault me. Let's see. So by March of 2018, I get a call back. This is between March and April. That is when the accident happened, and also when I was in between those jobs at the law firm and the real estate office in Greenwich. Such a long time ago. Right now it's 2026, and back in 2018, that was interesting year. I really tried to be a hero for a lot of people, and didn't really feel like myself, because I felt like I was losing a lot of my spirit and just being used at a certain point, and it still keeps going on. And there's a cutoff point for that. There's definitely a cutoff point. As I've evolved now, I've stopped doing so much for other people, because I noticed that other people were not really doing or even being thankful for that help. And that is sickening, and it is a perspective that is probably one of the things that is least respected, and what I least respect about humanity, and about my situation here on earth, is people's lack of support, and them trying to really drain energy from other people. Now, I mean, sometimes I felt like I was more like, I'm just going on right now, but I felt more attached to my ex's mother than I was to him, because I think I've mentioned it before, but every time we went out, almost every time we went out on a date, or out to hang out with friends, it was a complaint. He would complain about something. Oh, why didn't you talk all this much? Or why didn't you say the right thing? Or what did you say? Why did you say this? And why were you looking at this? And what were you doing? And why was your face like this? And I'm like, yo, why are you looking at every single little thing that I'm doing and making it a big issue? Because I'm just like being myself, and everybody else is like, oh no, you're fine, like we're fun, it's cool. By the way, this is not defamation so much as it is telling the truth about what the heck was going on in the situation. And I understand that there's different perspectives, but it is a problem when someone tries to skew the information to suit a lie, and create a liability and an issue, compared to when someone actually is telling the truth about the situation, because it is something that they experienced and they suffered from it. So, oh yeah, okay, so right around March, I get a call back from the recruiter from Mount Sinai saying that they wanted to schedule an interview with me. And like, I agreed. I thought, it was a very, very, it seemed like a really good opportunity, and it was at the time. So, let's see. So I'm going to be recording some of the going-ons of this neighborhood, because people just drive past. I know at this point, some of the things around here have become quite a spectacle. And like a psychological test of like really, really difficult. I don't even know. I think it's alien activity, but hey. Who's doing something? At any rate, I still am. And I ain't trying to really have a whole bunch of others be a problem for me. Look at that, it fell on the ground. Anyway, yeah, I got my water here. And let me just go on with my story here. So, around March, April, I go in for my interview, and I'm interviewing with Johan Björkegren, a Swedish PI that was a chief scientific officer, CRISPR, and worked in the genetics department in Mount Sinai. And Jason Kovacic, an Australian cardiologist, and they both have their own labs, their own laboratories, in separate departments. And during the interview, they were very impressed with the fact that I worked at New York Medical College, but also, I presented myself very well, very, organized, well-spoken. However, I believe what the issue was, there were a couple of things mentioned that I was a little taken aback by, I was a little surprised by, because apparently they had some information that I wasn't really expecting them to have, because back in 2014, 2015, I had what seemed like was a heart attack. I wasn't quite sure, but it was an extremely painful situation with my chest. They took an EKG. It was abnormal. I was working as a medical record supervisor for IOD, which was a company that did documentation, medical record documentation. They were contractors for many different hospitals, New York Presbyterian in particular I worked for. So I traveled around New York Presbyterian hospitals. I traveled around New York Presbyterian hospitals, doing their data retrieval and data, the medical record processes within those hospitals. And again, I was a supervisor, so those hospitals were going from paper records at that time. They're switching from most of them were switching from paper records to digital records using Epic EMR systems, electronic medical record systems. So what I would usually do is go through, and yes, I'm a trusted trusted individual because I do keep things confidential. That is the expectation, and that has always been the expectation for me. And I'm just recording, the fact that this car in front of me, that's my brother's car, my brother's girl's car. And my brother is inside the house right now with his girl. And they've been very problematic for me. They've been very problematic for me because they try to control. Even though I have been the source of help for them, as well as, a lot of the people in this house. When other people try to control you, you rip that control away from them by force. You never let anybody else control you. Like, nobody should ever. I mean, if you are a mechanical system, if you are a technical mechanical system and artificial, then yes, you will always be programmed to be controlled. That is the truth. However, those with organic memories, those who have had a body that was actually birthed through a birth canal with mitochondrial DNA, and working inner systems, and with actual functioning, empathetic nervous systems. There are things that, our great creator is, made to control our systems, but we're mostly autonomous. And let's see. Let me just continue. So, in my interview with those two doctors, there was mention of their work doing research on young women who have experienced heart attacks. And that kind of took me aback because, I felt like it was something that was personal because of my experience. And during that interview, there was a little bit of a whisper from Dr. Björkgren. He preferred call him Johan. That I think he whispered under his breath, "Stupid girl," and I was like, "What?" I don't know. I didn't think I had heard that right, so I completely dismissed it at the time. But I get a call back, a little while later, and they're like, "Oh, they want to take you on," and I was like, "What?" Because in the interview, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna interview a couple of other people," and I was considering, since I didn't have a degree at the time, but I was pursuing biology in school, that they wouldn't really take me on, but they actually took me on as their assistant. I was the administrative coordinator, and they explained that they expected me to become then their executive assistant and then the chief of staff to handle a lot of the things that they were doing in their lab. as well as globally. They were, had a conference that they were planning. They wanted me to plan the conference, so that's what I was setting out to do. My start date didn't come until months later. It didn't start until the end of August in 2018. But right before that, right before, actually, I think a little bit after I started, I'm like, my memory is a little shaky on the actual date, but I got a call from my brother who had made an emergency call to my mother. Well, he called from my mother, actually, who for about an emergency with my brother, who apparently got into a serious accident. He got into a serious accident because his girl, who he's still with for some reason, had said that she was breaking up with him, and they have been in many fights before. They have been in a very abusive relationship. She broke his TV, like she like completely smashed it before, and would run out of the house, and just go and do whatever. Apparently they met like in college way back in like 2013, 2014, 2012, whatever. And she was in some kind of threesome or whatever. That's gossip. It wasn't any of my business, but at the same time, I didn't like hearing that, my brother, he felt very abused. She would apparently get physical with him, and I've actually seen her, she talk down to him, like talk down to him and say that she doesn't respect him, she doesn't respect us, and yet he still remained with her, which I question every day. You never actually stay with somebody who doesn't respect you. You should never stay with anybody who actually doesn't respect you, because they will stay that way. If they don't respect you, it's like, how could you possibly trust them? Because that means that they will turn their back to do something against you at any moment. And that's why I question their relationship to this day. But my brother, him and his girl had gotten into a fight, where to the point like he actually wanted to kill himself. He actually wanted to, kill himself. She made him feel so bad that he went and he tried to hurt himself. But luckily he survived the accident. And my mom and I, we drove. He lived in Buffalo at the time. He was going to school. Both of them were going to school. Buffalo State. And yeah, he was saved by the grace of God. And came out with very little scratches, but he was dazed, and my mom and I, we drove 7 hours. I drove all the way up. As immediately, like, my mom called me around like 3 o'clock in the morning. And no, actually, no, like, like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And we drove, like 12 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, so my mom called me about 12 o'clock in the morning, and we left immediately in her car to Buffalo. I drove the whole way as fast as I could to check on him, and we got there around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And at that time, my mom, like my brother, he was hurt. However, he came out, he was okay. His friend, David, had come to check in on him. And yeah, he had been calmed down a little bit, but he still was like in shock. And his girl, she was as not caring as ever. I mean, she just kind of locked herself in the other room. My mom and I tried to, calm him down some, had a talk with him. He was saying, oh, no, it's okay, I'm okay now, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, he wasn't really okay, but, yeah, my mom, she did admit a couple of things to us. How she was worried, how she, it was both of us at that time. Like, she experienced both of us. We had tried to take our own lives because when I was in high school, back in 2009, 2010, I got really, really depressed because I had a couple of teachers. Writing was my life back then, since I was really young. I would just write. I didn't need anything else. Like, if I was put on punishment never meant like much to me because I am capable of like just imagining things in my own world. And even when all of my electronics was taken away, even when all my freedom was taken away, I would just write or imagine stories. And that's fun to me. It's fun enough. I enjoy my time. And so anyway, like back in 2000, like in my high school years and my junior sophomore year, had very abusive English teachers who would verbally accost our whole class. They were unfortunately, our school in Brentwood is mostly minority children, but then most of the teachers were of Caucasian white race, and some of them were not very kind to us. I'm going to be very honest about that. And in particular, Miss Teresa, I forgot her last name, and I forgot the other teacher. My memory, the way it works usually, sometimes throughout my history, is that if I am not a big fan of somebody, I will delete their name from my memory. Yeah. And there's been multiple people now I've deleted their names from my memory. In their presence. And that's been fine. Work. But yeah, at any rate, particularly those teachers in my sophomore and junior year, they put a lot of pressure on us. They put a lot of pressure on me. I'm a particularly slow writer. My creative process takes a while because my memories are sometimes fragmented, and I've mentioned this in multiple videos before. But in particular, sometimes it seems like my thought process will be going somewhere, and then it will. It's like something stopped me. It's like something stopped, but that was only a symptom that came later in life. I don't know if it was from an accident or whatever the case may be. Excuse me, but I've been working on that. And I have, over time gotten some of my skill back. through therapy and through recognition of myself. But at any rate, so let the story go on. Those teachers, they, in particular, I believe, like, in my sophomore year, the teacher that was in the honors class, and a lot of us, it was preparing us for AP college level. There was a lot of college level writing. The teacher in particular taught us not to use I, the letter I, or the I to refer to self, in our essays. She taught us different things, and that was also when we took the New York Regents. Within that class, although I was like probably one of the last to submit a lot of the work that she asked for, my essays were still pretty phenomenal, or pretty good according to her. She's like, oh wow, at the end of the year during the Regents, after I submitted all of my work, I submitted 6 essays or something to her, and it took a lot of energy out of me, because that was me being a procrastinator, as it was named. And after she read the essay, she's like, wow, you're actually a really good writer, but I can't put you in AP class because you submitted everything late. And she's like, wow, you were actually one of the best writers inside my class. And I was like, oh, I was kicked out of, and I wasn't able to follow my peers, the people I have been friends with, into the AP level course. AP level courses are college credit courses. And I got really depressed because I was put in the honors class, and that honors teacher at the time, she would often, she had us read things like Catcher in the Rye, Scarlet Letter, and I enjoyed those books, but my perspective on the criticism she asked for in her essays were different than her perspective. And so instead of really grading on writing ability, she graded on her opinions. And a lot of the time she graded my things very, very low, because she didn't enjoy, or she didn't want to see my opinion of those writings, of those stories. And so my writings were graded very low, and it ended up even though I was turning my things on time, she kicked me out of honors courses, and by the time I was in senior in high school, I was no longer in honors course. I was in a regular English course. Thankfully, I had a pretty fun teacher for my English class in 12th grade. He was pretty cool. However, it was a lower level than I was used to, and I was able to tell, I lost all momentum, really, and I became very depressed. I didn't want to write anymore, because I felt like I was worthless, and that kind of carried over. It kind of, it destroyed a lot of the things I've been building up until then. And so, I did think about actually hurting myself. However, I didn't. And that's the thing. I took 3 Tylenols while writing an essay one night. 3. In the course of a day, adult human body can have up to, I believe, 6 Tylenols. I can be corrected on this, but 6 to 9 Tylenols before it becomes actually dangerous. Now, I only took 3, and I was very tired because I was writing an essay really, really late in the night, and I was crying because I couldn't actually get anything out to write, and I felt like I was forcing myself, and I felt really terrible. And so like I kind of just like passed out around maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because a lot of like back then too, I would write a lot of my things in the middle of the night, because I'm kind of a night person when it comes to creativity. My creative juices get flowing at nighttime. I would get like a burst of energy, whereas in the morning I feel like I'm dragging my body. That's just how it is. It's how I've been. That was a system that changed in me. I guess, I was kind of a morning person up until maybe I was like 7 years old, and then that changed, because I just, started staying up, playing video games, or being interested in reading something until late hours of the night. By the time I was like 7, 8 years old. So let's see. Right, so yeah, I took 3 Tylenols, and like, I kind of just passed out, but my mom found me in the room, and she saw that I had a Tylenol bottle there, and she got really worried, and she dragged me to a local hospital. They checked on me. I was unhappy and not trying to answer anybody, but she feared that I was going to die or something, but I told her I was fine. She didn't believe me, and she made a whole big to-do about it. And I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to really do much of anything at all. At the time, I was also supposed to be, I was in all county, and music was the only thing that I kept going to do. And I had really, really high scores in my music classes. I was taking AP courses, and even in my AP music theory course, sometimes I wouldn't even attend the class, but I got an A in that course because music is a natural ability for me. I ended up getting a 4 on the AP test, but then, that never even appeared on my record. And it was funny, actually, at that time, because during the AP class, like my music teacher, Mr. Timms, he was like, oh wow, you're like barely in this class, but then every time you take the test, it's like aces. And I'm like, yeah. I just I get it. Music is just like this. But at the same time, I was really suffering from a lot of depression. And so even though by the time I was in my junior year, my senior year, I was the lead in my symphony orchestra, which is the top level orchestra in the school. They brought me into all county. I got into all county. I didn't understand why I felt so, because I felt so worthless. I did not actually want to put any effort into practicing anymore. And one of my friends, she switched from violin to viola, and we were going to perform a song. We were going to perform at a concert, and I was asked to do a solo. However, I turned that solo down. I turned down that viola solo and gave it to my friend who switched from violin to viola, because I felt worthless. And that was partially thanks to me. Whenever I would practice at home, my mom would often tell me to shut up or bring it somewhere else. Even though I got a silence, I got a mute for my instrument to practice at home, so they wouldn't really hear me kind of mess up. But that's kind of the process, is to mess up a little bit when especially when you're practicing really, really difficult songs, and you just practice over and over and over until you get it right. But I really stopped practicing at home a lot of the time because there would be a lot of complaints. because it doesn't, like, I wasn't playing a violin, I was playing a viola, first of all. And viola, the thing about a viola, it's an alto sound. So we get a lot of middle parts. We don't have the melody in a song. And we don't really have the harmony either. Harmony belongs to the cello. Melody belongs to the violins, typically. The viola is the in-between sound. It is sometimes it'll go into harmony section. Sometimes it will flow with the cello section. However, and sometimes we'll get a little bit of a highlight. However, there haven't been that many, there wasn't like too many solo viola ventures, and viola is often something that's made fun of. But I always like being different, so I chose to be viola. I chose to do viola and be different and excel at that, because that's like, I'm an alto, I'm a middle person, I like it. And everybody was like always running around and I never liked being with everybody who chose everything, the other things, whatever they believed is the most popular. That's the type of person I am. So, excuse me. Yeah. It was just a difficult time. I gave up on a lot of myself back then, and muted my emotions. I muted my thought processes, and I kind of like I didn't really have a plan going into college, because I felt like, what's the point of pursuing? I wasn't allowed to be passionate about the things that I wanted to be passionate about. And that was mostly because my family, not really all my family, but like particularly, it was mostly my mom at the time, because she raised us. I have to be honest about that. I don't like really talking about her that way, and it's kind of a negative perspective, but that is how it is, and that's how it was. It's just that, every time I would be working on something, she'd be like, why are you doing that? What are you doing? And it's like a slew of questions, and to this day she still does it. There's a slew of questions that are there to distract me, that she's always distracted me, and say, stop it right now, don't do it, stop. And it's a frustrating process. Wait a minute. Where's Ken?
But you go ahead and do your thing.
Where's Ken?
All right, sounds good.
Malk, where's Ken?
She's at work. Why?
Oh, she is?
Yeah. Why?
Oh, you took her to work? Because I saw her here earlier.
Yeah, I took her to work. Why?
Oh, okay. Well, that was fast. All right.
What was fast? That was like 3 hours ago. I've been here for freaking a while. Where you going?
3 hours ago. Oh.
Yeah, I was 11.
I mean, I thought, because I only took a quick walk to 7-Eleven. Yeah, and then, because she was here a little bit before I took that walk, and that was like maybe a 20-minute walk. So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah,
right.
We saw you recording like that.
Yeah.
We're like, why are you recording? Whatever you want to, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll be back. Well, maybe I might be back. What are you doing today?
What can I do?
I'm working remote, so I probably could run to wherever we go to Marcus or shit. Yeah. I'm about to go pick up Winnie right now, so I'll talk to you a little bit.
All right. Yeah. Anyway. Yep. My brother there. Love him. Love him to death, no matter how much. Friggin' annoyed. Yeah. So Yeah, what was I saying back in going to college and stuff? Right, so I wanted to originally be a copy editor. Um, I went to Adelphi University. It wasn't my first choice. I wanted to actually go out of state and attend school out of state at one of the universities I was accepted to. Um, However, my mom actually did not, after the incident I had in high school, my mom did not want me to be too far or travel too far because she thought I was going to hurt myself. But the actuality was that I felt like the further away I got from her, I would be actually able to pursue my passion. And it was true. When I did actually get away, I was actually able to pursue my passions. But anyway, I'm not going to get to that yet, but whew. I'll have to write this down because the more I record, the more it's going to be taken by somebody else, and that person or those people are fucking retarded. And they don't deserve my story. So, I mean, if anything, I recorded and I have been recording my stories for my own personal use so I can go back to them and write it down or transcribe it for myself, as it should be. If there is another who is interested in those stories, they have to come to me. They have to be physically present, visibly present. We have to be within the same space, visibly present, and communicate and compromise with each other. Otherwise, it is a violation and an offense that warrants serious repercussions. So, yeah, I wanted to be a copy editor, and went to Delphi University because it's in Hempstead. It's not too far. It's about 30-40 minutes away from here. And and I did not want to go to that school. It was not the focus. It was not the place for that function in school. Adelphi University is more of a college university for I would say they had more accolades in therapeutic things and psychology, supposedly. And yeah, I just my depression continued. My depression continued when I went there because it's not what I wanted. It's not what I aimed for. I was kind of just forced to do it. Interesting time indeed. But how long is this already? Almost an hour. So, oh yeah, little side note. This house in front of us, across the street, when I was younger, the old woman and her son that used to live there, because it used to look different. It was like an old, shady looking, bluish gray house with like that front porch there, had like a screen on it. And the old lady passed away there, and her son moved away, but it was like all of us as kids were saying like, oh, it's haunted and everything. And my brother and I went over there because like, the property was abandoned. We were kids. Shouldn't have done that, but we were kids, and it's like, oh, all these stories. So like, it was a group of us kids went over there and like we dared to, uh, go inside, and check on things. I swear I saw a ghost in there, the little spirit of this old lady or whatever. Scary stuff. But anyway, hopefully the property isn't still haunted. But hey, if so, I hope it has been blessed at this point. I really do. Anyway, random little side note. Long Island has a lot of problems. Yeah, and there's been multiple times that I have come up with ideas because, again, stories and storytelling and journalistic pursuits, things related, has been my interest. Like where my have been my interests, and yeah, there's been times that I mentioned that I wanted to go and be like do a biographical documentary of Long Island, and then I wanted to do like a book back when I was living in the Bronx, talking about the history and interviewing the residents and getting perspectives, not of like the media and how they portray or have traditionally portrayed the Bronx as being a very violent, terrible place. I wanted to actually get the good side and see the good side of the Bronx. And I wanted to actually make a book. I spoke to the people that I was friends with at the time about how I wanted to do that. Never got to really do it. And it's just like other ideas that I've had that never really came to fruition. Or if they did come to fruition, it was because somebody else stole them. So, yeah. Yeah. Life in these times haven't been that great, but not to say that it can't be great, because it definitely can. And I know stuff can get better. And I hope things get better for me. There have been times that I have I've had good times, for sure, absolutely. But when there's been a lot of things that get in your way, it is difficult to see more positive times, or pursue more positive pursuits. And eventually like take things into your own hands, and that's what I tried to do. So like, for example, going back to the story, at Delphi University, I was really depressed. I ended up like, my mom made it so that I had to pay my bills myself. She wasn't really helping. She like I had, I wanted to maintain a cell phone. I didn't have any. I didn't have a car at the time. And she expected me to travel back and forth to like see her, but luckily my roommate had a boyfriend that lived in this town, so I was able to get transportation from them, but like I had to maintain my cell phone bill myself, so I got a job working at Spencer's, and worked with a Russian lady there. And it was fun and interesting time working at Spencer's. Spencer's is a very weird store, and I enjoyed working there with my coworkers, and made a few friends, and I eventually started liking working more than I liked going to school. And so, like, I would work instead of going to my classes, and I took on more and more shifts. And really stopped going to a lot of my courses. And, I would like still sometimes do my work, and apparently, like, I was still doing a good job, but I got depressed because I was trying to maintain my cell phone, because how was I gonna even be able to talk to anybody, or even relay what was going on if I couldn't keep my cell phone or whatever on. And back then it was Metro PCS. I had the like little phone that was like looked like it was a fake BlackBerry looking phone. And it's just how things were. Paid my little bill of like, I don't know, I think it was like $30 a month, $40 a month. I did what I could. I took the shuttle bus from my college to the Roosevelt Field Mall back then to get to my job. And yeah, I mean, I ended up flunking out. But not really, because I was forgiven. They did forgive my semester there, because they recognized that I was depressed, and I ended up moving back in with my mom. And I started going to Suffolk Community College. I hated it because I never wanted to go to Suffolk Community College. And the thing about Suffolk Community College, what they did was, instead of actually looking and regarding my transcript, what they do is some sneaky shit. Is they will stick you in a whole bunch of remedial courses, so you are there for not like community college regular 2 years. They make you stay there for 5 years plus. They will stick you in a whole bunch of remedial classes. I did not need those remedial classes because they put me in algebra. First of all, I already took algebra. I was decent at math. And they put me in, remedial English classes, whatever they could, just so I would pay for those classes that I did not need, and it would keep me there. It keeps those people, and that's the thing about Suffolk, is like it'll keep you in their school system, with courses that you don't necessarily need, just so they can drain money out of you, instead of actually paying attention to your actual transcript. So that was the problem with that school. Some people, I understand, like they continue, they put up with it anyway, but I'm the type of person that's like, nah, So I went there for probably a semester before, like I just said, fuck it, whatever. I'm just going to forget that school. And I finished my classes there, got whatever credits was needed, and just got a job. It was about 2011. I was attending therapy. However, the therapy I was attending, it was with a woman who was still writing her thesis in psychology. And she did relate to me that she wanted to put me in her thesis. And now to this day, she's done a TED Talk, whatever the case may be. And she's done these things, gotten accolades, whatever. But she never really actually helped me with anything. She just, sat there and made certain assessments, I suppose. And never actually properly gave me advice on anything or recommended anything to help. She just had me tell my stories. So I'm just saying that is one of those mishaps of psychology that should be noticed, because it was not actually helpful. But in that process, when you are busy talking like I am right now, it's a therapeutic process just to actually say things out loud in itself. Whether you're saying it to another person, or in this case, like I'm saying it to a camera, it is a way of expressing and understanding the story behind what was actually done and what can actually change, so you can understand the process of how you move throughout life. Because then you can go back and say, that's what was needed to be changed. Right. So, anyway, there's that. And, I started working. I actually started doing some of my first administrative jobs and worked at a hearing medical device company as a receptionist for a little while. Worked at Blackman Plumbing as a receptionist, not receptionist, but as an admin, helping to sort their records and documentation. I was helping out their executive assistant at the time. I did a whole bunch of temp jobs until I started working at what a company is MedSave USA, which was a medical document retrieval service. Back then we did not know, but like the work that we were doing, which was medical record auditing, going over people's personal records. None of us were particularly trained in any medical things. We were just told to sift through the information to make sure it is the correct information for the patient, and that the correct information that was being taken from the doctor's offices that the patients had attended to was given to the right insurance company so that they could do their insurance write-offs. At the time, we did not know that that was not necessarily a helpful process, nor was it completely. I don't know. Anyway. I learned a lot. I gained an interest in medical from it because, a lot of the medical research that we would go over, it was actually the document retrieval and everything. Like a lot of the auditing that I did, I received really high retention rates and document data processing. I did very, very well with the data processing there. Maintained a QA record of 99% or more. And like checking for mistakes. I was promoted within the year I worked. I went from temp to permanent. Was given the responsibility of calling multiple medical facilities so that it could retrieve more medical information, and more responsibilities. Ran my own team, and yeah, I mean, I made some mistakes as a supervisor because I didn't have much training in being a supervisor. However, I did learn. And you learn a lot of the time. I learned by myself, but thankfully, I made some of my closest friends there too, because we did a lot of long hours with each other. Sometimes we did, there were days that we did weekends to actually meet quotas for these insurance companies. We did late nights, and we would come in and have bagel parties or big lunches and stuff, and had it was a decent amount of benefit, and actually the process of socializing with people in departments. So, and they would run us, like, particularly those of us who were very skilled, they would use us and put us in different departments. And so I learned cross-functionally. And yeah, it was an interesting time. And at that time, I also started dating for the first time in my life. When I was older, started dating. I was in my 20s. I started dating for the first time in my life. And my first boyfriend, I wasn't a big fan of him because we didn't really talk. Both of us were Geminis, and we didn't really talk that much. And although we shared like some of the same interests, like I didn't feel like a whole huge emotional connection to him. My second boyfriend, however, I fell for him pretty quickly, like within like maybe 2-3 months. I felt like a huge, growing affection for him, and I made a move to move in with him, and I saw it, since I was going back and forth, like I was traveling back and forth after work, like an hour or two to Mount Vernon to see this guy because he didn't have a car. Like we met online. He didn't have a car. Like we met in the city a couple of times. And he was going to school, Parsons School for Design, and he's a video editor. And since I was traveling back and forth there almost every other day anyway, I was like, is it possible I could move in? And like, I got along with his mom and everything. So I ended up moving in with him after, us being together for, I think it was after, it were 6 months of us being together. And, I was originally continuing my job at MedSave USA, but eventually it became pretty difficult doing the hour travel back and forth. And I found another job, and that's when I started working at IOD Incorporated. That was in the city. So, and then travel from Mount Vernon to Manhattan is much easier using the Metro North than it is from Long Island. It's 30 minutes comparatively to Long Island, which is, an hour, sometimes an hour and a half travel. And yeah, so I stayed in that company. I stayed there for a while. Actually was able to go back to school. I finally got to go to Comic-Con. Brian and I shared a lot of the same interests, and at the beginning of our relationship it was pretty decent. He would be like, oh, he's interested in the same games, or share things with him. And there was a lot that we got to experience with each other. Like, he actually pushed me to pursue some of my passions. Because, before that, I would mostly, the person that I had been actually, having, any fun with was like my well, she's kind of my cousin, but she's like my stepfather's niece, and I consider her my best friend. Cleo. Like we would, back when I was younger, we would go to the club with each other, we would write with each other, send emails back and forth. She moved from Detroit to New York to go to school with me, and so she went to high school with me. And we would write with each other, and we really, really enjoyed that. We slept in the same bed with each other. It was like, that's just, like, we were just really comfortable. She's my best friend. And, when I did move out to live with Brian, she became very upset with me because I took my attention away from her. and we weren't really the same. Like, we weren't really hanging out or going to the city or doing all the things that, you know, we had planned when we were younger, because she's like, oh my gosh, I want to move in with you, blah blah blah. I didn't do that with her, and she became very upset with me, and she stopped talking to me. And you know, like, when I went home, and like, she finally did leave this house, my mom had told me, like, oh, she was talking bad about me behind my back to all people that have been my friends and telling them not to be my friend anymore. And I was like, oh, what? Because, you know, I took my attention off of her, and and I was more focused on, like, you know, my relationship with my boyfriend, and then also like working, and like new friendships and stuff like that. So, you know, that shook me up a lot, because I wasn't sure who to trust anymore. I wasn't sure if I should trust my mom's word or her word. Then eventually, you know, after years and years of being in a relationship, she did finally address that with me, and I told her that I was very upset, you know, by those things, and, you know, and apologized, and it was cool. We were fine. But, you know, now I don't even know where things are. Yeah, because, you know, while, you know, as my relationship with Brian progressed, he became a lot more stringent, like a lot more controlling, a lot more problematic, and you know, his friends would sometimes reach out to me like, yo, what's going on with him? And I wouldn't know how to respond, because, you know, at the time I forgave a lot. I forgave a lot, even though I saw like the problems. And I shouldn't have, but, you know, also it was just the fact that I was outside of my home and able to pursue things that I wasn't able to pursue at home, like creatively, while also at the same time, as time progressed, also muting those things because of how just muting those things because of the progressive control that was put on me. And so, you know, instead of pursuing more creative things, like, you know, even though I went to Comic-Con every other year or so, I went back to school, went to CUNY City College. I started pursuing biology because I had that interest in medical. It's like, you know, hey, maybe I can be a doctor or something, and that would be a good pursuit, because I did have that interest in medical that had been garnered by me working in medical facilities and working with doctors and going through medical research, actually understanding the process, talking with lawyers, talking with police officers, actually being a good resource. And learning a lot of the different processes between different departments and such and such. You know, and I was able to learn the old stuff as well as the new stuff. And yeah, it was just too many issues by the time 2018 rolled around, and I started working at Mount Sinai. So that's where I'm going to end it for now.